She also brings a background in land and water conservation in the West, and she's a passionate advocate for rangeland conservation. She recently, I don't know if you've seen it or not, there's a book called Roots and Resilience. I really recommend, there might be a QR code on the screen, or to order it on Amazon, because she has it's a remarkable collection, and she has a few works in it. She was actually on the recent podcast for the Rangeland Trust, and I highly recommend it, but bring your tissue. She read earlier at the Reunier. She's been invited to recite at the Cowbook Fall Gathering in Loomis alongside Dave Stamey and others. And she's going to the big one. She's going to the National Poetry Gathering in Elko in January. So it's a big deal. But for me, this is also personal. Jessica approached me a couple decades ago about would I mentor her a little bit and help her more in this world, which was an honor. And but then she's a great archivist and researcher. Turns out her grandfather and her grandmother were both pilots and flew my family in Arizona and Santa Rosa Island. So you just never know where the roots come back together. But it's
the ranch where you grow up, if you're lucky enough to grow up on one, stays with you forever. It is the most beautiful place you've ever seen, no matter where in the world you go. The green spring of your childhood is the greenest anywhere. The golden light at the end of a summer day is the most golden you've ever walked through. And the melody of a ranch evening is the most beautiful music to ever enter your ears as the crickets trade verses in the grasses. This never leaves you. You never leave it either, even when you do. In 2013, I wound down the ranch driveway for the very last time, the dust of the road rising up beneath my truck tires before settling back down in the washboards and potholes. This day marked the end of 5 generations of my family living and visiting there, for a total of 86 years, which is actually not much time compared to that of many ranching families. A coyote crossed the driveway on the way down the hill, and a white egret I'd never seen before flew off as the electric gate swung open to usher me out onto the main road. I stopped and chose a rock from the dry brook next to the driveway. It was the size of my open hand, sort of heart-shaped, with green and yellow moss. My memento, I thought to myself, my piece of the ranch that could always stay with me. A stone heart was perfect. It signified how my own heart felt at the time, numb, cold, plucked out of and displaced from the landscape where it had belonged. A decade on, and I still wake up every night having dreamt of the ranch. I get up in the morning with the ranch in my forethoughts, as though there are chores still to go and do. It's not outside of my front door anymore, but the ranch and chores are certainly always on the front porch of my mind, like a pleasant haunting. I love that it haunts me, and I hope it never stops. It's painful, but it is full of love. It feels closer that way, as though it will be just tomorrow when we leave the ranch behind. Before I open my eyes each morning, when I wake up, for that little window of time, I'm still there at the ranch for one more day. And the brilliant greens and golds never change in the hauntings and the daydreams, unlike the way life before me constantly does. The ranch is always there, consistent and unwavering, with the stability it lacked in real life, but that's the beauty of dreams. It took me years to learn that this feeling is called hiraeth. Hiraeth is a Celtic word, which means longing for a place that you can never return to, either because it is no longer there or because it never was. There isn't a word for this in American English, and that surprises me so much, because in the hundreds of years since we non-Indigenous Americans set foot on this continent, we've certainly experienced it a lot, and caused a lot of others to experience it too. But perhaps it is significant that this concept does not exist in our language, as though the feeling is not important enough to be a word. The dominant theme of American culture has always been to look forward, to the next frontier, to the rugged horizon, to the future. Interesting then, how much we glorify and gild the past to extremes, and never enough time in the present moment, that place between. My life now is very different from what it could have been, what it would have been, if my cousins and I had become the next generation of stewards of the ranch. I am my grandmother's granddaughter, but I am not the woman who a grandchild will one day look back at from up ahead on the trail, smiling from their saddle, out to check the cattle together on a gleeful spring day. I'm not ever going to wonder, while waving to that child as she rides up ahead, amazed by her fearless spirit, whether she would feel trapped by the burden of inheriting the ranch from me, or question alternatively whether I was making the right decision in my will to have my heirs pack up and sell the land. The pain of it all only makes the memories more vivid, the grass more emerald, the light more golden, the sunset more vermilion, and the memory of the old falling down blacksmith shed with the hole in the roof and the bellows still standing, more dreadfully synesthetic. Instantly, I can recall the taste of dust on my tongue and the rotten wood smell in my nostrils and the feel of the cold, damp metal anvil, gritty with moss and rust, under the palm of my hand. My entire heart is filled up with love for a ranch that I belonged to, but which was never meant to belong to me. I wish I had never overheard the adults talking in the other room about what would become of the ranch one day when grandmother dies. I was 10. I shouldn't have been eavesdropping. All the same, it was a shock, and I couldn't fathom a life off the ranch. I ran outside to the barnyard and cried ugly tears at that anvil in the blacksmith shed. That day, the charming rustic outbuilding full of magic took on a different hue. The rust and the decay all around me meant something that it took me years to begin to understand, and I possibly still don't, not completely anyway. I have forged meaning out of my life from the memory of a blacksmith's tools from my childhood, stoked from a coke-forged bellows and crucible that hadn't fired in decades. I hammered out a rudimentary set of ironclad beliefs against a silent anvil, so old and untouched by the time I was a little girl that a patina of rust and moss grew in a patchwork on its surface. And today, as of this writing, I realized a true working ranch, one that is viable and sustaining of its stewards, one that has stewards worthy of the job of sustaining it, doesn't have an anvil that collects moss and tools that collect rust. A working ranch has a smooth, black anvil that sings. Thank you.